And this is Faisal Khan for Lights Out Association with Shamrock Boxing. And this is episode 5 of Boxing Talk with the Sugar Man, Shane Mosley Jr. I'm delighted to be joined by... What's going on, Shane? I'm delighted to be joined by Shane, of course, himself, and fellow Lights Out team member, Ron. Mosley Jnr. Ron, how you doing, bro?
All good, mate. All good. Let's get the show started, man. I'm excited.
Let's get up and running. But before we get into the show, we obviously just have to remind the people out there, if they haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like. Make sure you leave a comment as well at the bottom of the video. Make sure you follow us on all the social media platforms. But don't forget to follow the Sugar Man, Shane Mosley Jr. himself on Instagram. The link is below in the video. Let's get started. Last week I was sat on Instagram. I was sat up late at night. Shane messages me. I'm thinking, what on earth is Shane messaging me for at this time of night? Is he leaving us or is he giving us a great idea? Of course he's not leaving us. He comes up with a brilliant idea. He wants to talk about dream fantasy matchups. You can talk about boxing all day long, but you can obviously... What else you can do in boxing is you can talk about fights that you're never going to see. So, great idea, fantastic idea. Shane is going to be a bit greedy today. He's going to talk about 2 fights he would like to have seen. Ron and myself are going to talk about a fight we would have liked to have seen. We're going to debate it. We're going to discuss it. We're going to talk about the fighters themselves. And at the end, we're going to come to some sort of a prediction what happens in the fights that we've discussed today, the dream fantasy fights. Shane, brother, break it down. What's your first dream fight you want to talk about?
All right, so well, so I'm gonna start out by saying I originally had one fight in mind, but I felt like it was an obvious choice. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of an obvious choice for me. You know what I mean? I know it would just be like, oh, okay, of course you think that would be a dream fight for you, but I really thought about it. Like you said, I messaged you and I was like, I think this is a great topic, and so I was like having dream fights in my head. And I thought a great dream fight would be Mike Tyson and Joe Frazier. You know, the obvious choice, obviously, when talking about heavyweights and great heavyweight fights, is Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. I think we had talked about it on the show. Mm-hmm. They were having like a poll. It's an obvious fight because you talk about great fighters, but as far as matchups are concerned, I feel like a better fight would be Mike Tyson and Joe Frazier. We talked about this on the show before. You get great fights when you get 2 guys going at each other. When like their heart is on the line, everything is on the line, and they're going for it. I feel like those 2 styles, Mike Tyson and Joe Frazier, would come at each other. Joe Frazier had that peekaboo style where he's coming at you. Mike Tyson had the TikTok where he's like coming at you. So you just imagine those 2 guys clashing. You know what I mean? Like it'd be like, I don't even feel like it would last. I think it'd be like a round maybe. You know what I mean? Like, but it'd be a great fight up until it lasted.
I mean, you talk about fantasy fights that we will never get to see. That is definitely got to be one that's up there. I mean, 2 hard, heavy hitters from the heavyweight division, 2 former world heavyweight champions, 2 great fighters that achieved so much in their career. Oh my God, I love it. Ron?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think Shane's kind of mentioned it all. They had 2 very interesting styles of fighting. That would have been, we normally talk about Ali versus Tyson, but that's the first time I'm hearing it, and I'm liking the idea of it, actually.
Can I just say, Ron, the tagline, Smoking Joe versus Iron Mike.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it does itself. Yeah.
What type of fight do you think we would have got in this fight, Shane?
Oh, we would have got a knockout for sure. But definitely a brawl. Like, we would have had 2 guys going out there to kill each other. I mean, even, Mike and Joe's mindset, I think that their mindset of winning a fight. I mean, when you hear Mike Tyson talk about fighting, he's talking about killing you, like eating your babies and all this other stuff. And Joe Frazier, to my knowledge, yeah, he was calm on the outside, but a killer. You know what I mean? Like, very, very much so about getting in there and mixing it up. So you get two guys with that type of mindset, you know, you're not talking about a long fight. We're talking about like a street brawl type of fight.
100%.
Shane, I've got a question for you. Where does that fight take place?
It could take place in my back garden. I'd still pay to watch it.
To be honest, man, I think that fight would have most likely happened on the East Coast in the United States, which would most likely be like Madison Square Garden or something like that. I mean, of course, we would have loved to see it like in another country. I'm sure many places would have loved to pay for that fight. But as far as those two guys go, because they're from the East Coast of the United States, it probably would have got something like the Madison Square Garden or something of that nature. But I mean, shoot, it could have been taking place anywhere.
Shane, sorry, Ron, to disturb you, but what's interesting about this fight is that many people will compare both fighters' resumes. Which fighter do you think had the better resume, Frazier or Tyson?
Oh, man, off the top of my head, I'm thinking Smoking Joe. Off the top of my head. But, I mean, Mike had some very, good fighters on his resume as well. So, I mean, we're talking about two titans. You know what I mean? Like, these both are up there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just wanted to ask a question. I mean, in modern day boxing, we see that whole max. I can't remember what it's called. I know we have gloves are off, where they kind of sit face off with each other. Can you imagine what the with Max Kellerman in between and Tyson and Frazier kind of facing each other? How do you think that would go down? Who'd win that battle? Who'd win that kind of face off?
I don't know. I'd love to see that though, man. I'd love to see that face off. That'd be great.
I honestly look at this fight and I think minimum 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Maybe 4. Both heavy hitters, both achieved so much. Both former undisputed heavyweight champions of the world.
Yes. And
this fight is pay-per-view worthy. This is big. I like this fight, man. And do you know what, Shane? I've got to say, it's not a fight that's been talked about. They always talk about R.E. Tyson. They never mention Frazier Tyson.
Well, because to a certain extent, Frazier got outshined by Muhammad Ali. You know what I mean? Like, and so when you think of that time, people don't think about the matchups per se. They think about the time, and what era like that person was in. And so like the king of that era was Muhammad Ali. You know what I mean? So in the king of the 80s and early 90s was Mike Tyson. Everybody talked about Mike Tyson, and so you think, who would be the best out of those two? Like you think more so like, look at the kings of that era, those two eras. That's who would better fight, rather than would it be the best matchup. And I think a better matchup than that, I feel like the comparison for me would kind of be like if Mike and Muhammad Ali fought. I think we'd kind of get a more or less boring fight, like a Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. You know what I mean? We'll get a kind of fight like that. I feel like you wouldn't get this all-out brawl that you would get from a fight like Tyson and Frazier.
What I like about the fight is I mean, every time Mike Tyson's asked about what would happen if he ever fought Muhammad Ali, he respectfully admits that Muhammad Ali would beat him. But I can't recall anyone asking him about this fight with Joe Frazier.
Mm-hmm.
If I ever do get in front of Mike Tyson's face, one, I'd have to change my underpants about 3 times. I would have to ask him about this fight. I might just tweet him tonight. Pray I get a comment back. Ron, final thoughts on this fight. I mean, what type of fight do you think we get?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Shane. It would be an out-and-out brawl. I mean, I'd love the build-up to it. I mean, Joe Frazier wasn't that passive. I mean, I remember him and Ali in a scuffle or two leading up to their fight. So I think the build-up would be just as exciting. I think it has to be in America, that fight, and there's just going to be bombs landing in that ring between the two of them. Very different styles of fighting, but I don't know who wins. Well, I'll have to have a think about that and get back to you at the end.
Smoking Joe versus Iron Mike. The tagline itself is just beautiful. This is why I love boxing. Right, it's fight number 1. Shane, you're gonna come. We'll come on to your last fight at the end.
All right.
To you now, Ron. Dream Fantasy fight number 2. Which one selected and why?
Well, you're gonna love this one, boys. Both of you two. I've gone for a British fighter, Prince Naseem Hamed, and versus Floyd Money Mayweather. And the timeline I'm thinking is around 2001. And it's at both interesting points in both their careers. And it's a fight that could have happened at 130, I reckon. 130 pounds. Mayweather at the time was, up and coming, kind of dispatching of his opponents. Nas himself, he'd just beaten. This is before the Barrera fight.
Sanchez.
Yeah, Augie Sanchez. He had just won that fight, and he was going to go on to fight Barrera. So I think, boxing fans that said that it could have happened then. I remember when Floyd Mayweather beat Corrales in that very brawl of a fight where he dropped Corrales 5 times in that fight, and he won every single round. He even asked for that fight, Larry Merchant kind of said it's not going to happen. I think they were both at different points in their careers. I mean, let's just look at those two. I mean, Floyd Mayweather, sublime speed, punching power, technical perfection. We can't dismiss that shoulder roll, that great defensive tactics that he has. But Nas, what about him? Remarkable reflexes, unconventional, unorthodox style. I mean, we talked about it in one of our last podcasts, and freakish power in that right hand of his as well. That used to get him out of trouble. More so towards the end of his career, where his speed and agility were not as good as they were at the beginning of his career. I mean, both of these two fighters started off spectacularly in their career. I mean, Nas won the world title at the age of 21, beat Steve Robinson in Cardiff, I believe. Floyd Money Mayweather, made his debut at 19, and we know how his career finished. Both the characters there, how they were larger than life, fantastic ring entrances. I mean, Nas came on a flying carpet. Mayweather taunted, used to use any psychological warfare to beat, get one over on his opponents. I remember him even wearing a Man United top to kind of taunt Ricky Hatton, if you remember that, yeah. So
it's burn it as well.
I mean, Floyd definitely wanted that fight. I remember Hamed said, this is a quote I read of his, it was a good decision that he did not fight me because he may not have had the career that he did. So, big words. I mean, I think that would have been a fantastic fight. I mean, again, that Max, a gloves are off or a Max Kellerman, a show off between the two. Who would have won that?
I'm going to have to obviously give my thoughts on that fight. Great fight, brilliant fight. One of the best of all time from the UK, and probably against one of the greatest of all time ever in boxing.
Yeah.
But I just thinking that sort of period in 2001, they were both on 2 different paths. And I think that's why the fight, maybe it never had the hype behind it as much as it would have. Because people would always talk about, did Prince Naseem retire too early? Did the defeat against Barrera just completely finish him off? Did the lifestyle have a part to play in it? The difference between that is Floyd went on and did what he did, became a 5-weight world champion, 50-0, fought the best, beat the best, whatever people want to say about him. The guy had a phenomenal career. Naseem Hamed, for me, had a great career, achieved a lot. I think could have achieved a lot more. In terms of the fight, I think Floyd would have probably had too much for him. That's no disrespect to Naseem Hamed, who will go down as one of the best of all time the UK has ever seen. But I think Floyd would have had way too much for him. But it is a great fight, and it's a fight I'd love to have seen.
I think his fight sometimes it's about timing. And if you were Floyd Mayweather's, if you were Mayweather and Floyd Mayweather Senior, you would have loved to have made that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they made that fight when Floyd was 24, 23 years old, and Naseem Hamed was on the decline, you would have caught him, and that would have just boosted his career. Floyd Mayweather. I mean, not saying that it didn't boost his career anyway. He look what he's achieved, but it would have boosted his career at an earlier point.
Shane, your thoughts on Mayweather versus Naseem Hamed if it had happened?
I actually like it. I think if Nas would have fought him and did a front flip over the ropes, he would have won. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. That's a joke. But I do feel like that he would have had more than a lot of people expected, and that's Naseem. I feel like how awkward, how kind of unorthodox, how hard he hit, I think would have gave Mayweather trouble, especially we're talking about a young Mayweather. We're talking about, when he was in his, early 20s at 130, not as seasoned as he was when he fought, guys like Ricky Hatton and things like that. So I think that could have worked in, Naseem's, benefit to have more experience. Obviously, he had a lot of experience at that time. He had fought, multiple world champions. He had a lot of experience, and Floyd didn't have as much experience. So I feel like, maybe he would have caught him at the perfect time. And I feel like with the style that he had, with the power that he possessed, I think he may have given him more problems. Do I think he would have won? Maybe not, but I think we would have got a better fight, because at that point in time, Floyd Mayweather was a different type of fighter. He wasn't this defense first type of fighter. He was actually kind of more of a fighter. You know what I mean? He when you like you said, you brought up Corrales. Like, that was not a boxer. You know what I mean? That was a beating. You know what I mean? And so if you take that guy and put him in the ring with a guy that is unorthodox, that can punch and that is willing to mix it up and kind of showboat and do different stuff. I actually love I would love the face off and the kind of the build up to that fight, because they both have talked a whole lot of trash and the very big personalities and I would have loved to actually see that fight in the UK. That would have been great.
One thing you reckon that takes place in the UK or the US?
Absolutely, UK. I think especially. I think it would have to. In my opinion, I think, of course, Floyd, he would have wanted it in Vegas, but I think to get that fight to be as big, like, like that's the type of fight that could probably fill up, the O2 Arena. Things like that, and you're not going to get that anywhere in, the States.
One thing I would have to say about this. Sorry, Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that fight, if that was to realistically happen, I think that fight would have taken place in the US, because Nas was one of the first British fighters to break through in America. He kind of paved the way for the other British fighters, like like the modern day ones, like Ricky Hatton and Lennox Lewis and so forth. I think there was a lot more money there. I mean, HBO or Showtime would have taken that up. So yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
And,
one thing I have to say about this fight, for me, if Prince Naseem Hamed has a chance of winning, he has to have the late Brendan Ingle in his corner. Because I believe when Naseem Hamed and Brendan Ingle parted ways, Naseem Hamed wasn't the same. He lost a fight to Barrera. He come back, he had one fight. But even in that fight, you could just tell that there was something missing. And I think Brendan Ingle played a an influential part in Naseem Hamed's career, and I think Brendan Ingle knew how to get the best out of Naseem Hamed. And I still remember being a young kid being shocked when Naseem Hamed announced he was parting ways with Brendan Ingle, and that Brendan Ingle wouldn't be in his corner for the Barrera fight. I think if Naseem Hamed has Brendan Ingle in his corner and he's in his peak for this fight, you never know. But for me, Brendan Ingle, if you watch deeply into the Brendan Ingle and the Ingle's documentaries, you see how much of a great trainer he was and how much of a part he played in his fighters' careers, such as the Naseem Hameds, the Johnny Nelsons. That for me is a massive part in this fight if Brendan Ingle is in Naseem Hamed's corner.
Just a little bit of a sidebar that I'm kind of curious about. Was the Barrera fight the only time he never flipped over the ring, the ropes? I'm almost positive that was the only fight that he never did. Every single time he flipped over the rope. And I thought it was just so strange that he never flipped over the rope for the Barrera fight. He went under, and I was like, I remember watching the fight. I'm like, why didn't he flip over the ring? Like what's going on?
Bad omen.
I think something was missing. I think when he split with Brendan Ingle, something just.
Leading up to that fight, he broke his hand in that fight against Augie Sanchez. He was 7 months out of the gym. Obviously, Shane, you know it better than other people. If you break on your hand, it's not the same, when you do return back to the ring. And, he gained weight. He was 35 pounds over, and to lose that weight, going into a fight against a Barrera, kind of moving up in weight as well. You can remember Naseem Hamed started off as a bantamweight. Yeah. And then he moved onto featherweight. So, that could have made it. Sorry, I know we're getting away from the
actual fight itself.
Yeah, the actual fight. Let's be honest. I think I agree with you, Faisal, with Mayweather being the more favourite here, because Mayweather was a bigger man. Not in terms of weight. Let's talk about height. Talk about reach. I think in terms of reach, now he had 8 inches on Mayweather. Mayweather had on Naseem Hamed. And height, I think, as well. So now, but the one thing that was a saving grace for Naseem Hamed, it was that phenomenal power at bantamweight. I think he was the hardest hitting bantamweight ever. That's what they was talking about the other day in, these boxing critics. So that could have been something that could have, won it for him, and his agility as well.
It's a great fight, but like this topic, it's a fight we're never going to get to see. Unless Naseem Hamed is going to come out of retirement, and Floyd Mayweather, but I don't see happening. Of course, again, one of the great fights that we will never get to see. Fight number 3, my turn. At heavyweight, Muhammad Ali versus Tyson Fury. Listen, you know what? If you ask me, what would you rather see, the fight or the press conference? I'd rather see the press conference. You got the two best talkers in the game of all time. On one side, you got Tyson Fury calling Muhammad Ali a bum. And on the other side, you got Muhammad Ali calling Tyson Fury a bum. It's just... I love a good character in the sport of boxing, and this is, for me, one of my most watched things on YouTube is Tyson Fury's press conferences. I must have watched the Vladimir Klitschko press conference over 30 times. That is how much I love what Tyson Fury is able to do. If you look at mentally and psychologically, these two fighters go into any of their opponents' head better than anyone. The amount of times I've spoken to people in boxing, and they've said Tyson Fury's already got this guy beaten. I'm like, well, why? The fight's not even happened because during fight week, that's when Tyson Fury starts the fight. Press week. Muhammad Ali did it to every single one of his opponents, wound them up, made them look silly. But if you look at it technically, both had great defenses. Both used their heads well. Great footwork, great hand speed. The rope-a-dope, they do it better than anyone. It's a great fight, but again, press conference. I want to see that more than the fight. But look, I think I've said it for a long time now. I think Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight since Muhammad Ali. And I get a lot of criticism for that sometimes, but I've seen a lot of Tyson Fury to what I've seen in Muhammad Ali. Set footwork, head movement, hand speed, that same confidence, the way they talk. There's a lot of similarities. Someone once said to me that Tyson Fury brings Muhammad Ali back into boxing, and now looking at it since Tyson Fury's come back into boxing, I agree with it. Oh man, the Gypsy King versus Muhammad Ali. Fuck, what a fight! What a fight! Beautiful fight. You could smell it. That's how much of a good fight it is. Shane, break it down for me. Why is this a good fight?
Well, for one, I feel like if you didn't have Muhammad Ali, you wouldn't get Tyson Fury. I think Tyson Fury is who he is because of Muhammad Ali. He's had that influence. You could tell, you could see it, and you could see the way he fights. Man, I think it's a great fight. Like you said, I definitely agree. I think the press conference will be better than the fight, and I think the fight will be great. You'll see beautiful boxing. I think you'll see a lot of skill being displayed. The only thing I think that Tyson may have over Ali is that he's a lot bigger. But that doesn't mean that he's going to win necessarily. I think it's just more so that he's bigger and he has that bit of an advantage. But Ali was very skilled, very fast. He could put together punches. Obviously he could punch, hard. So I don't know. If I had to lean to one way, I would probably say Tyson Fury just because of the size. You know what I mean? Because he can also move very well and things like that. So I think ultimately going down a long, stretch of a fight, I think I would lean more that way just because of the size difference.
I can just see it right now. Tyson Fury, you bum, you this, you that. And I can see Muhammad Ali responding with, if you talk a little more, I'll drop him in 4. A great press conference. I think it's a great fight. I would have loved to have seen it. And just because of how much of a wind-up merchant they both are. Ron, your thoughts on it?
It depends on which Ali you're talking about. I mean, there's 2 Alis in from my understanding. There's the one before the 3 years he was out the ring.
The one that was just about to fight Liston. I think that was the best Ali out of the lot.
Yeah, I mean that was really early on. The
first fight, I mean, the early stages.
I mean, before the whole Vietnam War, and he decided, he refused to go. That Ali was a different fighter to the later Ali, because obviously this is what makes Ali the greatest. It was him adapting, him changing his style. Because he was out of the ring for so long. I think Tyson Fury, I think he would be humbled if he was trying to verbally joust with Ali, the best at it. I mean, there's no one better. I mean, he was intellectual, he was charismatic, he was hilarious. So is Tyson Fury, but there's levels. I think with Ali, we spoke about it on a different podcast where we said about what he represented, not only as a boxer but as a human being. He was larger than life. But Tyson Fury, obviously, I think it's an interesting matchup. But I think Shane makes some really good points. The bigger size, the height difference, the reach. I'm not certain, but I think the heavyweights back in those days, the weight-wise, I mean, the ones in the modern day era are bigger. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or yes. So, that makes a difference. It's that kind of leaning on. I can imagine Tyson Fury using his weight advantage, leaning on Ali. That could tire him out. But remember, those guys back in the day, they were trained to fight for 15 rounds, not 12.
Mm-hmm.
So could that be a difference? Could Ali say, right, I'll let you dominate the early rounds, but I'll get you in the later rounds?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm so mean, I'll make medicine sick. I would have loved to have seen that press conference. I've been told I'm very good at impressions. I might just have to do an impressional press conference and see how it gets on YouTube. Okay, listen. Once I start talking about Tyson Fury, I don't stop. So it's best we move on now. 4th and final fight, Shane.
All right, because I'm greedy and I like it. I got the shirt on right here. This is my Sugar Shane Mosley shirt. But anyways, so my 4th and final fight is gonna be Sugar Shane Mosley and Manos de Piedra, Roberto Duran. And so,
Nice.
so that's Shane Mosley and Roberto Duran. I think that this is a great matchup. I think that we have two of the best lightweights. Oh, and the fight would be taking place at lightweight. So I think at one point in time, my dad had 32 wins and 30 knockouts or something like that. It was like 32 wins with 30 knockouts. Roberto Duran had something similar as at lightweight. So we're talking about two come at you, hard-hitting guys that are going to go for it. You know, my dad's saying was always go for the knockout. Roberto Duran, I know him. I've met him. He's trained me before. He's a very similar type of dude. He's always going for the knockout. He's always thinking he has that mindset. I think it would have been a great fight. I think we most definitely would have seen the knockout. I don't know which way I would lean, to be honest. Like, I mean, you know, I don't want to be, you know, like, I can't even be biased because I really don't know. I would just love to see the fight. I think I would love to see, like, just the crazy passion that these guys, like, just brought out to have a great fight. And I think we would have definitely got it.
A 3-weight world champion versus a 4-weight world champion. Both heavy hitters, both technical brawlers, pressure fighters. You know, Manos Di Piero being Pedro versus Sugar Shane Mozzie. It's a great fight, and you know, again, it's not one of those fights that, you know, when you're sat with friends or when you get like the best punditries in boxing, it's not a fight that they talk about. But you know, Shane, you mentioned it to me today earlier on Instagram. It did get me thinking. I think your dad's pressure might have been a bit too much, but I think, you know, Duran, what was it, over 100 and how many fights was it?
There's, I don't know. He had a hell of a lot of fights.
He had a lot of fights. He's got so much experience. Great fight. I mean, you see a lot of people criticize Duran for quitting in that second fight against Sugar Ray Leonard. But then again, they don't look at what he achieved, you know. 4-weight world champion, a former undisputed champion, former lineal champion. And then your father. You know, he was one of the fighters of the years, I believe, was in 2000.
1999 or something like that. It was something like that.
You know, I mean, the performances against the Mayorgas and the Margaritos and the Oscar De La Hoyas, it's just, it makes for a great fight. Your father as well fought the best.
Yeah, he
fought the best. You know, he achieved so much in the sport. You know. An entertaining fight. What your father was, I think you'd have got a good old scrap at this.
Oh man, I think it would have been a great fight.
I think you'd have got a war. Ron?
Yeah, I mean, two incredible fighters who've done amazing in their, you know, respective weight divisions. I mean, Roberto Duran. You know, let's just think about which time period he was fighting in. Who were the fighters around? You know, Sugar Ray Leonard, Hagler, Hearns. And those days, those boys fought each other. There wasn't this, oh no, ducking and diving. No, they actually fought each other. It would be a terror. I think I'd just love to kind of just watch that fight. I think I'd love to be just a fan, just, you know, make no prediction and just enjoy the fireworks, really.
Yeah. Like I, you know, I mean, I know, like, you know, my father, I've watched him fight my whole life. I've watched Roberto Duran, and I still, like, honestly, I can't think of who would win. Like, in my opinion, I don't know. Like, I would literally go in there like 50-50, like with the Tyson Fury and Muhammad Ali. You know, I could say, oh, I'm leaning more towards, you know, Tyson Fury because of the weight. With, you know, Roberto Duran and my father, I don't know. Yeah, you know what I mean, like, I honestly, like, I don't know. I can't see who would win. I don't have a favorite.
Shane, I've got to ask you. Sorry for disturbing you, Shane. I've got to ask you this question. No. I've never asked you this before. I mean, in your opinion, what was your father's best weight? What weight category do you think suited him the most in his career? And what weight category do you think suited Roberto Duran in his career?
I think the weight that suited both of them, just because I like, you know them both, I think would probably be 147.
Well,
but
yeah.
But you know, you gotta go where the money is. You know what I mean? So, guys go where the money is. When all the fighters are a certain weight, that's where you go, because that's where the money is, and that's where, ultimately what you got to do. But as far as their weight and what their body can hold, I think would be 147 pounds.
Shane, who's a ring announcer? Jimmy Lennon Jr. or Michael Buffer?
Michael Buffer.
MGM Grand or Madison Square Garden?
I actually would have loved to see that fight like in another country. Like, I think that fight could have been like, I don't know, but like I think I'd want to see it.
You
like
haven't done Dubai yet? Maybe Dubai.
Yeah, I would have loved to see that fight in Dubai.
Hey, what's wrong with the UK? The UK is where the action's at.
No, yeah, but man, it's going to be something different, isn't it?
Come on, why not, man? The UK. Okay, HBO or Showtime, Shane.
Well, if it was in the UK, we'd have to go Sky Sports.
Sky Sports, Matchroom could go with BT Sports, Queensbury Promotions. There's a lot of it could go on DAZN. It could go on a lot of places.
So if it was in the UK, where would it be? What station do you think it'd be on?
I think it'd be Sky Sports. That's no disrespect to BT Sports, but I think Sky Sports, because obviously they're
the bigger player.
BT,
I think at the moment.
Ron, be careful, man. Be careful with your words.
They're the bigger player.
Be careful. I got a reputation to think about. Okay, I got people watching this. Yeah, just don't get me into no trouble. Okay, I got a great relationship with BT Sports. No, listen. Even I would have to say Sky Sports. It is probably the bigger platform, and a lot of people side with Sky Sports. That's, again, no disrespect to BT Sports. They do the hell of a job. But I think Sky Sports, I mean, if it had to come down to like, a purse bid, I think Sky Sports would probably win a purse bid.
Yeah.
That's the way.
Out here, I think it would probably be, if we're talking about purse bids, I think HBO, because, when they were in the game, I think they would have really bid on that fight a lot, because my dad fought on HBO a lot. I think Roberto Duran might have fought a couple of times on HBO. So I think they would have probably went after that fight.
That's the 4 fights. We've discussed them. We've given our points. We've given our thoughts on them. Shane, who wins fight number 1 that you mentioned, which was Tyson versus Frazier?
Oof. In my opinion, I think Mike probably would have been a little bit too much for Joe, but I think it would have been a great fight as it lasted.
Do you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say that fight gets stopped at disqualification for both fighters.
That's a safe answer, man. It's a safe answer.
I can't predict it. Rod, Tyson versus Frazier. Give us a prediction.
A young Mike? Or which?
Both in their prime. Both in their prime.
Mike. I think Mike, yeah. I think he'll try to get on the inside and just rough him up using that kind of, that Costomato kind of, that technique. And I think he wins by an uppercut. That's my prediction.
Shane, start with you. Fight number 2. Prince Naseem Hamid versus Floyd Mayweather.
In 2001 at 130.
Okay, I think it goes the distance, but Naseem drops Floyd.
Ooh.
And I think he drops him. But Floyd gets up, and he wins the fight by points.
If you see on Twitter tomorrow that Floyd Mayweather's blocked Shane on Twitter, you'll know why. I'm only joking. Listen, fair enough, man. Nick, look, that's his prediction, and that's his opinion, and he's entitled to it. I'm going to go with Floyd Mayweather, a unanimous decision points win. Ron, this was your fantasy fight that you picked, so break it down to me. Who wins?
If it happens that date, 2001, and he doesn't have Brendan Ingle in his corner, and he's struggling to make that weight, then I think Mayweather wins, but unanimous decision. Yeah. It's an interesting one, because if that fight did happen and Mayweather did win, would he still be with Golden Boy? Because he had that, bit of an argument, he was frustrated with them that he wasn't their number 1. Now, would that have elevated him? because they were favouring what's his name again? Oscar De La Hoya at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It's interesting, isn't it? That one
you talking
fight
about Top Rank?
Yeah, Top Rank. Sorry,
Top Rank. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Golden. Yeah, obviously, it could have changed. Floyd's rise to the top. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Fight number 3, the one that I went for. I'll start it off. Muhammad Ali versus Tyson Fury. I believe in his prime, Muhammad Ali was unstoppable. But you know what? I think Tyson Fury is going to get better and better. Muhammad Ali was special, man, one of the greatest of all times. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what Tyson Fury is like as a defending champion, which we haven't seen yet. But I'd have to go for Muhammad Ali. Just because he's done that little bit more in his career. He's won it 3 times and he's defended it. And he's similar to Tyson Fury. He came back when everybody thought he'd never come back into boxing. I'm going to have to give the benefit of the doubt for the greatest of all times in Muhammad Ali. Shane?
No disrespect to Muhammad Ali. I think he's great. But I think the weight would have been too much for him. I think purely just the size difference. I mean, Tyson Fury is a huge guy, you know what I mean? And he's had skill, he moves very well. So I think that just would have been a lot for Muhammad Ali at that time.
Ron, give me a quick prediction. Fury versus Ali.
You're putting me on the spot here, man.
Listen,
both incredible what they've done for the sport of boxing, man.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of, don't want to disrespect either of them because they're both incredible athletes. In and out of the ring, as individuals as well. I think with this is like modern day training, technique and the science behind it all. I think Tyson Fury wins it. Just, I think so. Yeah, what Shane said. I think coming from the boxing point of view and the technical issues of it all, I think Tyson Fury for me.
4th and final fight. Ron, be careful what you say. We need Shane to come back on next week. Shane Mosley Sr. versus Roberto Duran at lightweight. Shane, you have to start first.
All right, so I'm going to be biased because that's how this game goes. We're going to go with Sugar Shane Mosley. I think it goes all the way, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just all the way, like an all-out fight. You just get 2 guys all beat up and fought their heart out, but they go the distance. And I think my dad wins by split decision.
If it happens at lightweight, Duran wins. If it happens at welterweight, Shane wins. I'm not saying anything more because I need you to come back on next week, Shane. A great fight, but again, it's just one of those what weight. I think welterweight suited your old man more, Shane. I mean, Roberto Duran was on the king of the lightweight divisions. Definitely. Ron?
I'm going to be a bit controversial here. I think I'm a big Roberto Duran fan. I think he was one. I mean, so was Shane, to be honest, to be fair. But I'm going to side with Roberto Duran there in that fight. He was a tough son of a bitch, man. That guy.
Yeah, he was, man.
He did he go by the name of Hands of Stone as well? Was that him?
There's a movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a movie on it.
There's a reason for that, man.
Watch the movie on Netflix.
That's what Manos de Piedra means. It means Hands of Stone.
You need to watch.
He actually knocked out a donkey. He told me the story himself. He said his friend bet him $20 in a bottle of I think rum or something like that, or tequila rum, something that he couldn't knock out a donkey. And he goes of course I can. And they knocked out a donkey, and he won.
I think
hashtag animal rights, eh?
I think
right.
I think Dillian White and Derek Chisora would have loved Roberto Duran, especially with how they used to call each other a donkey during the but no, guys, that's all we've got time for. Do you know what? I absolutely enjoyed that. Honestly, it's a great little topic, a great little debate, and of course, episode 6 hopefully will be just as interesting as episode 5 was. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't already, make sure you follow the Sugarman Shane Mosley Jr. on Instagram. Hit him up, talk to him about boxing. He's always up for a boxing debate. And this is one of the reasons why we love having him on here. And Shane, once again, thank you very much for your time. You know, we appreciate it as always. Rod, thank you very much for your time. And Shane, I mean, I know we might have not given you the answers you needed today about the last fight, but I can't be biased, man. Ron can't be biased either. But no, Shane, thank you very much for your time. A pleasure as always. Hope you keep it safe at this time. And look forward to getting you on here for episode 5. Ron, thank you as well. Again, make sure, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and we'll see you guys for episode 6. And that is the end of episode 5 of Boxing Talk with the Sugarman, Shane Mosley Jr.
Yeah.